Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn about forecast automation profiles. What is it is that based on the time series data, the forecast automation profile categorizes the data according to whether it is a continuous or intermittent or lumpy into different categories so that it can be used. This categorization of this particular time series can be used going forward to apply different methodologies of forecasting or cleansing based on its time series property. So for example, say suppose there is a data which looks like pretty continuous, and in between there might be some intermittently some sales that didn't happen. So if it identifies it as a continuous, then the cleansing strategy can be taken is that we can impute or replace the missing values with the average of the entire data set. So suppose the average is 53. So we can impute the missing values with the average of the entire data set. However, if this is another time series and it is identified as an intermittent or non-continuous, we can take a strategy that we will not impute these missing values by any data, because anyway there is an intermittency in the data in the ordering pattern. So we will not want the data to be replaced, because anyway they don't this product don't get orders all the time. So this classification of time series is helpful in categorizing data and taking different kinds of actions. Let's see where this time series property attribute resides. The time series property attribute resides in the customer source master data. So this is the customer source master data, and this is the time series property attribute. So what we have now is that the data at the time series is at a product location customer. So what we will now do is that we will find one key figure which is at this location, and we will also see that if it has a it is at a month level. So we see that this quantity final consensus demand is at a month product location customer. So let's have the example data copied into it. Save the data. We have seen that there is no master data as of now. In the time series property, there is nothing. So once we run the automation job or forecast automation, we should see that the time series property should get updated. So let's see. So we will wait for some time for this process to finish. So it has finished. Now refresh the master data. So we see that this data has been identified as continuous, right? Because it has pretty continuous sort of demand, right? And then we have imputed this data with the missing values. So we will revert back. Now what we do is that we will now take an example of a data which may be a bit non-continuous. So we will see, say, 600 and then 3, 2. So there might be some inconsistency in the ordering pattern. So let's copy the data here. Save data. And run the forecast automation profile again. Okay, it is finished. Now let's refresh the master data sheet again. So we now see that the data is identified as intermittent. And we see that if we open the automation profile, we have said that the minimum data points required is 5. So if we reduce the number of data points, so now let's see how many data points are there. So there are 7 data points. So let's say we delete this. So now there should be 4 data points. till April, it is 5 data points. So we'll just delete and make it 4. Doing so, what it should do is it should, it's not me. So doing so, what it should do is it should show that there is no data or insufficient data. So now let's run the automation job again. So it has finished, and let's refresh. It has classified this particular time series as insufficient data. So we have seen all these examples. Let us revert back to the intermittency and we'll try to see what is the data type, the time series type it is classifying. So again, we will run. It has finished. Let's refresh the master data. So it is intermittent. Now let's see if there is any seasonality in the data. If we can plot this, it is very difficult to find any seasonality because the data is so much intermittent and then there is so much this thing. And if we relax the seasonality test, sensitivity to seasonality test to a bit, let's see if it identifies this data as seasonal or not. So we change the sensitivity to seasonality test and we are running this again. Okay. Now we'll go to the master data, refresh it. So now, since we have relaxed the seasonality, the sensitivity to the seasonality, it is identifying this data as seasonal. So that is the significance of the sensitivity parameter. So we have seen different use cases. Now let us see how to set up a forecast automation profile in IBP. So what we will do is there is an app called forecast automation profile. We'll create one. Select the planning area. You have to provide the input based on which we are identifying the time series property. So we have taken the consensus demand quantity final. Or consensus demand final, we will write. Consensus demand final. So this is the one. And we will say that target of unit of measure is each. And calculation is at a product allocation customer. And we will say it as a month. And the number of months we want to use it 16. Minimum required points is 5. That is fine. We leave the other parameters and we have seen what is the significance of the sensitivity. We want to keep it at a very highly sensitive state with a parameter. And then it is asking which attribute do I want to update. So I am selecting the time series property attribute in the customer source master data and save it. Right? And then I will note this particular job ID, and I then go to application jobs, create a new one, say forecast automation. So planning area. And let's see, 1836. So which one did we create? This one. Okay. And then we'll schedule. But before that, let us change the data back to the continuous one so that we identify that it has changed or it has run actually. We will remove this. Okay. So now we see that the master data is intermittent now. And let's run the forecast automation profile. It has finished. Now let's refresh the master data. So we see that it has identified it as a continuous. So that's how we configure the forecast automation profile in IBP.